Ciao jewelry makers, it's Joey Balistreri, and today I wanted to unbox the Curated Bead Box for October 2023. Now my idea is to unbox it and then make a piece of jewelry, but I don't think this video will be posted for a couple of weeks, but you know that's okay because those of us that get these subscription boxes or even sometimes buy supplies, life happens and we don't get to create or spend time with it until weeks later. So when it's posted, it will be there, and maybe some of you missed this box because, for one thing, the picture on the front of the box shows colors that you don't expect for October in the fall, but I do like that, and the name is really cute, Seriously Sassy. So with the Curated Bead Box, to tell you a bit about it, for those of you who don't know, it is about $20 a month, and you get a variety of glass beads. You get a starter pack of stringing materials and findings and beading supplies, and usually some base metal components that you can play with, a focal point. You rarely, if ever, get gemstone beads or faceted crystal beads or anything that's more expensive, but it is a great way to build up your supplies if you're new to jewelry making, or as I used to use these types of beads for when I volunteered at my son's school all through his middle school and elementary school. I was like a 200-hour a year volunteer, and I used to bring supplies and projects as a volunteer to do with the children. And now that he's not in school, I do that for the neighborhood children, and I take care of some children in the summer. And so these quality of beads are wonderful to give children to play with and design with because they're not super expensive and they can't harm anything. So I'm not going to spend a huge time on the unboxing. We'll have a look at what's inside together, but Curated Bead Box puts their supply list of what's inside on the outside of the box, and every box has the disclaimer about bead sizes and types may vary due to availability, which has pretty much always been the case in my box that I get. Things are constantly substituted. It's just the nature of this subscription box. But that's okay. But I don't spend a lot of time on the unboxing because what you all have received may be different from what you're seeing me unbox. But we'll have a look together inside. I'm really liking this. It's a little bit unusual for an October box, but I like what I'm seeing. I also, just a little tip, their adhesive on their list here easily comes off the box. So if you're a person that likes to cut the labels and put it in bags or in your storage system, you can do that. You can put this on a piece of paper. If you have a file folder that you keep these sorts of things in, you don't need to keep the box if you don't want to. This does come off pretty easily. But let's see what's inside. It's so exciting when you get your subscription box, never knowing what is inside. Of course, this one you get a little sneak peek with the little thumbnail picture on the front of the box. Let's see. So as I said, you always get your little starter kit with pretty much always there is stretch cord, there's memory wire, there's bead stringing wire, there are jump rings, crimp beads, some ear wires, some head pins or eye pins, some lobster clasp. That is pretty standard with this box. And again, if you don't have a lot of supplies, if you're fairly new, or if you are doing less expensive designs in jewelry or for children, then this is wonderful to build up your supplies. So I'm going to set that aside. And let's see, I'll take the tissue paper away so that I'm not making a lot of noise. I'm sure the microphone on the camera is very noisy for you guys. Sorry about that. Okay, let's see what we have. Oh, I love these. I can already tell that I love these. Let me grab a little dish to put them in. This is a very unusual silver spacer. I think it's so unusual. It's kind of a rectangle shape with a hole right in the middle, and it has a little bit of a design on both ends. if you can see that. Very unusual spacer. I have really, truly never seen that. And then we get, these are the bead caps, but honestly, these also are quite shallow as far as a bead cap, so this could even be used as a spacer. And even things that are bead caps, you can often, let me put this here, you can often grab a head pin here from our starter pack just so that I can show you another way that bead caps can be used. There they are. Let me get one of these out. So another way that you can use bead caps or spacers is to string two of them together like that. Now they're going to move around because on the head pin, but you can do that with them to create a thicker spacer or a little bit more of a metal presence in your design. So those are really lovely too. They actually, for me, could double as a bead cap or a spacer. And then we got a bag of this, they're calling these turquoise seed beads, and they look like Sleeping Beauty turquoise. It's a very blue, water blue turquoise, but that's pretty. And then this is a beautiful shape. Wow, this is beautiful. So again, in the Curated Bead Box, you get glass beads, but the millimeter size and sometimes even the color varies depending on availability. So I hope most of you have these in your box because they are lovely, and these could be used as a focal bead on bracelets and necklaces. I really like those. And then we got the same thing in like a milky white, looks like the old milk glass. Those are beautiful. That is really fun. So, and I really get excited when I find beads of different shapes that I don't have. So this is kind of like the shape of an egg. I like that. Oh, we have more bead caps. These are more traditional bead caps. And they are pretty. Very simple and plain, but they definitely add that little bit of metal in between your glass, and it's lovely. Lovely to design with. So again, if you're just starting out, that is a great starter selection of metal findings. Oh, and look, we got a locket this month. This is beautiful. I love to make bookmarkers, and oftentimes I will put a locket on the end of one of my bookmarkers so they can be personalized as a gift. I don't like to use my fingers to pry things open, so I'm going to do it with my pliers. Oh, very nice. So if this was hanging from your chain like that, you could look down, you could put a picture in both of the circles inside. And honestly, you could use it just as it is, but I envision painting on this. It's a really pretty flower and leaf embossed design on the front, and that could be really fun with like acrylic paint pens to give it some color. So that is probably what I would do with mine. And then let's see what we got. So in the Curated Bead Box, you often get this splatter glass sort of, and you get one color that's predominant, like in this one, I think. Let's see what they're calling this. It's often time consuming to match up the bead strings to the list on the box because again they substitute the sizes and they come unlabeled, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but let's lay out the strands together and look at them. So the other thing about this box is the beads are glass, but they they have a stone look, like a gemstone look to the glass, and they are really pretty and really good to have in your selection. Oh, this one caught my eye. Look at the beautiful crackle glass. It's such a bright, beautiful color. Oh, we got some also very large, they're 10 or 12 millimeter glass pearls. This beautiful yellow color. And you can tell the quality of glass pearls when you look at the hole where it's drilled. You can see the coloring and the finish there. And even if you look at the coating, like you can see that there are some imperfections in the beads. So again, it speaks to the amount of money that you're spending for this box, but you get so many beads, and honestly they look beautiful in designs when you flank them with bead caps, or when you add other things into your design. They are wonderful to work with. But I just like to mention the price and sort of what you get for those of you who do not subscribe to this box and would like to. So this is also pretty typical of the Curated Bead Box. Again, these sort of splatter painted beads. And this is a particularly beautiful one. It's mostly purple, but there is the turquoise peeking through, which matches our turquoise beads in this box. So I already can feel a design idea with that. And then we got some small, oh, these are lovely, small, like 4 millimeter, looks like, glass pearls. And I love the color of those too. And then we got a crackle glass turquoise bead. Looks like there's some parts of this bead that have a matte finish, and other parts that is the clear crackle glass. It's a little bit different, but yeah, that's a really pretty strand. And then the last strand that's here is this turquoise, this turquoise bead, and it's a painted bead, but it has some, they do sort of that marbling look with the paint finish, so it could almost fool the eye as a gemstone bead. And it's very pretty. This has a pretty shine to it. So again, lots of great supplies if you are trying to build up your supplies, or if you do anything that you don't need super expensive beads for. So I am going to clear this off my mat. I already have a great idea for what to make with this box. So I am going to clear this away and lay out my idea, and I will be right back. Okay, I have returned, and I wanted to share with you a little bit of my design process without making too much of a mess. But I find that if I cut my strands of beads and let them lay loose on my mat, that I design more freely and I'm more creative. I can play with the beads. So that is exactly what I've done. I started by choosing the beads from the box that I love the most. There are a few I had decided not to use, but I like these the most, and I liked the way the colors look together. So I just wanted to show you that, and I'm going to clean these away. I keep my beads, let me get a little scoop. I keep my beads in plastic bags, and they are stored in drawers by color. So when I'm working, I sort of clean as I go, and that way I learn to cook that way too. That way when I'm finished, I don't have a giant mess, and then if I need to pull supplies or find something else for a project, I can put my hands on it pretty quickly. So let's just clear some of these beads away. And then while I'm doing this, I'll tell you what else my process is. This box came with the findings in silver and the metals in silver, and it did not come with chain. And I actually can't recall Curated Bead Box ever coming with any chain. So from my own stash, I pulled some chain, and I made the decision to mix metals on this necklace. It's going to be a ladder necklace, so I'll show you. We will create bars out of the beads and then connect them like the rungs of a ladder. Let me just put a few more things off the mat so you have no competition for your eyes to see what's going on. Last one, the little purple. I used only a few of these, and actually for this design I didn't use too many of any of the beads, so there will be plenty left over for other projects. Okay, all clean. So from my own supplies, I pulled this copper chain. I bought this from a website and I cannot remember the name of the website, but this is a 4x7 approximately copper unwelded iron chain, which means that you can open the links. So that's kind of useful in certain designs. So I have this whole spool of this copper open links that can be opened. And I've already cut a couple of pieces, but we will need more for the back of the necklace. And from the box, we may use these silver jump rings. I also, from my own supplies, pulled out some copper jump rings and a copper lobster claw clasp with its own matching closure. I haven't decided yet. I'm alternating copper and silver, so when we start to connect, we can decide how we like the silver or the copper. So I have both here on my mat. And then, I unboxed the bead caps and findings. I ended up not using this cool little rectangle spacer bead in this design, but I did use both of the bead caps. And then from my own supplies, I pulled two copper spacer beads. This one again is from a website that I don't remember the name of, but it is a fairly common copper flower spacer. And so I just have used a few of those in the design, or did I? Yes, just actually a few, 4 of them. And then these are from an old bead box or bargain bead box. It was bag number 2. I don't remember the box, of course. Who even knows? But I had these spacers left over, and I have stacked some of those in multiples and used those in the design as well. So I did pull a few things from my own supplies because I just thought it would be pretty. I guess in the fall, I always think of antique bronze and copper as going so well with fall colors, and so I think I have that on my brain, even though these are not the typical fall colors. But many places in the world are not even experiencing fall at the same time, and some things, we can use year round. So in this design, we're going to create 3 bars that are pretty much all the same length. So I played around with the beads and created these 3 bars. In fact, let me pull everything up so that it's laying on the bead mat and you can see my idea and where I'm going with it. See if this is helpful. So that's the first bar. I'm planning to do that one for the middle and this one for the last bar. And then there's going to be at the base of the design a chain hanging with a charm holder. Let me show you again. This is from my own stash, and I really like the silver charm holder hanging from the copper chain. I think it's a really pretty contrast. It's like cool and warm metal at the same time. And so I'm going to create a double dangle to hang from that charm holder. This is going to be the longer part of the dangle, and then this one will go beneath that. So you'll see as we go along, I have repeated my design with the beads throughout the necklace going down, and then we will finish it off with more of this copper chain. So this project is a really fun, it's basically a simple connecting project. You do have to pay attention to where things hang on the chain, but it's not that difficult. And oftentimes when I make these ladder necklaces, and I have done them with 5 or 7 rungs, I have done them where they come to a point. I've done a lot of variations, and sometimes laying on the mat when you're connecting the bars, then when I put it on myself or on my mannequin, I will see that a connection needs to be changed to make it hang better. So you have that opportunity. It's very simple. We're going to use simple loops, and they're easy to open and close if you need to make adjustments afterwards. So I would say this is, beginner friendly. So I love this one-step looper. It comes in 3 sizes. This is the largest of the sizes. And I have a little arthritis in my hand, so this really saves my hand when I have a lot of loops to make. So in another project, I'll show you how I do my simple loops when I'm doing it with my round nose pliers. But for today, I'm going to stick with this one-step looper tool. So to start off with, I'm going to start at the bottom of my design. I'm going to start down here with my dangle pendant on the chain. So I've already stacked the beads that I like. I played around with it off camera and stacked the beads that I like and doubled up on those copper spacers in between this large crackle glass bead. And then I opted to cap the whole drop off with just one bead cap. It looks like a little hat on top of that turquoise bead. So I already have this loop made to hold it together while I was designing, and I'm going to put this wire back into this one-step looper. There's a hole in the back. It's difficult to see because the tool is so dark. That's a fairly good view. And then there is a little mandrel inside this tool right there. So you want your wire to be underneath that mandrel and your bead or bead cap to be up against the edge of the tool. If it's a crystal bead or a more delicate bead, you can pull back just a little bit. And you can always go back in and tidy up your loops. Even when I make them by hand, I still tend to do that. And then it is very simple, all in one step. You just close the tool. I'll go very slowly. You just close the tool and it makes the loop and cuts the scrap of wire off. And then I like to, while it's still in the tool, I like have squirrels running around outside my window. So I get a really good loop with that. But you always do, even when I do these by hand, I'm fussy about my loops. So I do have to go back in and tidy them up. But, you know, I'm going to be using these loops as connections. So I have to put my pliers to them another time anyway when I connect everything together. So the other thing you can do is take 2 sets of pliers and line up your loops if anything was off, or hold it in the tool and use your fingers to make sure, since this is a drop on a necklace. So that part is done, and I think it would be pretty to use a copper jump ring just so there's a little copper presence between my charm holder and my silver wire. So let's go ahead and do that. Then we can build it from the bottom up and see where we're going. So we will connect right there and connect to that charm holder bead. And again, when you close your jump rings, make sure there's no space in between, and if they're offset a bit, put your pliers like that, give it a squeeze. So there's one part of our drop. Now this is one of the head pins from the box, and that's the only one I'm going to use from the box. Everything else I did with wire. And I'm going to repeat the same thing. Put this head pin wire in the tool underneath that mandrel that's inside the tool. I will back off just a little bit because it's a glass pearl. And then you close the tool, and all in one step, oh, these head pins are tough. All in one step, you get a loop. And while it's still in the tool, take that scrap out. While it's still in the tool, I will pull it down because that way I'm centering that wire on the loop and then release. So again, it's offset just a tiny bit, but that's okay because we have to open it anyway to attach it to our pendant, and then when we close it again, we can make sure it's closed beautifully. So we're just going to attach that to the bottom of our other drop and close that loop, and little work hardening there. So our drop pendant is ready. Now it's going to be strung on this piece of chain at the bottom of the design, but we won't connect it just yet. But I like to just have a look at things as I'm going. That is really pretty. I like it. So we'll set that aside until we're ready to make our connections. So now we're just going to repeat that process on these 3 bars that I've created. So I just played around with my beads. That was sort of my design process. I wanted to have a fairly equal mix of silver and copper, And I also wanted to sort of equally mix the colors in the box because it was a very colorful box. So I don't know if you can see, but you don't always have to put your wire through the hole in the back of this tool. If your wire is short, you can simply line it up with the hole. Hopefully you can see inside the tool, and just close it and it will still work. Before you close the tool all the way, you may want to pull your beads down, and I can even see that my loop is not totally lined up, so while it is still in the tool, I can get a hold of it with my pliers and just make sure they're straight. And it's a good opportunity to even straighten your bar, because we do need these straight for this necklace to look like the rungs of the ladder. So again, there's a little bit of space with the one-step looper oftentimes, but we have to open this and close it again anyway when we connect our necklace, so I don't mind. Again, I have to put my pliers to it another time. So this component was a mixture of the crackle beads, the glass pearl, and the marble style glass beads, and I just stacked a couple of copper spacers. And the loops are silver, so again, I was trying to evenly mix a little silver and a little copper all the way up the design of the necklace. I think it's really pretty. I love to mix metals. Copper looks good with rose gold and silver. I also like copper and gold together. And this one's going to be a little bit short, but that's okay. The tool will still do its job. And like I said, I always check. I like to, while I'm holding my beads in the tool, it gives me a chance to straighten everything and have a look at everything. Okay, and then the last bar component is a simple row of those purple and turquoise splatter beads with one of the silver bead caps from the box on each end. And then we will repeat that same process with this one-step looper. Oh, I got a little bit too far away from the tool, so I am going to take my nylon jaw pliers and straighten that wire out just a little bit and do it again. Give it another pass. It probably would have been okay, but one thing about this ladder style necklace, it is really much better if your bars, whether you're doing 3, 4, 5, if they're almost exactly the same length. It just tends to look better. It hangs better, I meant to say. You can do them where there's some variation, but all the ones I've made, I liked the way they hung a lot better when the 3 bars are pretty close to the same length. So I don't know if you can see with them laying there, but they're pretty close to the same length, all 3 of those bars. And I think before we start connecting, we'll go ahead and make the other components. So I've already designed one side, and it's a simple matter of closing the loop on one end. And again, I just tried to evenly mix the silver and the colors in the box with a little bit of the copper present, so that throughout the design, the 2 metal colors make their appearance and the beads are evenly mixed. Sort of carries the theme of the colors all the way through. That one looks really great. And then this was my last component that I created, and on this one I didn't want the component to get too long, but I wanted most of the colors to appear here, so I opted to do the purple splatter at the bottom and the turquoise marble at the top and one of the glass pearls in the middle, and then stack the copper spacer on top of the silver bead cap that came in the box. And so I just think that's really pretty, the metal on metal, and it's just a lovely component, and it sort of repeats our colors and design in another segment of the necklace. Okay. So there is starting to see that side of the necklace. So I will finish these off camera and I will be back. Okay, I have completed all of the components for the necklace, and now the fun part is connecting everything. So I neglected to tell you guys that I was working with 20 gauge round German style medium temper wire. The reason is that I keep my wire in bags like this, as I've said in my other videos, and just keep the label inside the bag. And I worked with all scraps for this project. There was enough in here that were the right length to make these components. So that's why I neglected to tell you the wire that I was using. But you could go up to even 18 gauge, I think would work well for this. But I just wanted to tell you that. And then also, you know, I measure with my heart. I make my jewelry with my heart. So I just basically decided by my own eye the length that I wanted my pieces of chain. But for those of you that like to measure, I can give you that measurement. So if you're going to try to do this exactly like mine, this one was just a tiny bit over 2 inches long for the side parts of my ladder design. And then again, I just did this totally with my heart. My pendant that's hanging is going to be hanging from the bottom, and basically what I was looking at is the space that I would have here, the negative space that I would have here, which is the same way that I made the decision on where I'm going to connect the rungs of my ladder as I move up this chain. So that I can tell you what the measurement was. Let me do that for those of you that like to measure. But on a design like this, I just go with how it feels. So this was about 4¼ inches. You could do it a bit shorter or a bit longer. As I said, there was really no science to my choice, just that I liked the way it looked. I liked the amount of space that was in between the beads and the chain. So that's how I made that decision. Try to share my design process with you as I go along. So this is a fairly simple connection, but there is a little bit to take into consideration so that this hangs nice when you're wearing it and isn't twisted. So I'm laying one side of my chain down so that the bottom link of the chain is perpendicular to my beading mat, and that is where I'm going to make this first connection. So I am simply going to open the end of this component just like a jump ring, and I am going to put this link in its perpendicular position, if that makes sense, on this end of the chain, and close that really well and just work harden it a little bit so you can see. So now I'm going to lay that back down on my mat, and now it has turned to be the opposite of the perpendicular or the link that is laying flat on the mat. So that's where I want to sort of follow my chain up. My chain is not twisted, it's laying flat the way that it would hang. So I am going to count 6 spaces or 6 links. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is where this one lands. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see, but it's in the sort of opposite, not laying flat to my mat. It's going up and down from my mat. So let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to make my next attachment to that link that is exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to go right there. So I have changed my design a little bit to make my connection point with these tiny 4mm jump rings in silver, because as I made my first connection, I just didn't like the way this was hanging on the copper chain. So we're going to continue, but with the addition of these 4mm jump rings. So you have to assess when you're doing this because each chain is different, and I had decided to use the larger loops on my bars because I wanted more silver presence and a little bit more freedom of movement, but then the connection on the chain was not making me happy. So Let me show you now. I was counting up 6 links, and it's really important that your chain not be twisted, that it's laying nice and flat so you can keep track of the orientation of each link in the chain. So when I count up 6, it ends up leaving me 5 spaces in between the bars. So I attached at the bottom, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces are blank, and then I attached my jump ring to the link of chain that is going the exact same direction as the first one that I connected. Now I'm going to do that same thing because it's very important that you are connecting on the front of that link and not the back. Because if you don't do that, when you pick the necklace up and it's hanging on you, it will not lay right. It will always be sort of kinked. So we're going to do that same count again. Let me get my jump ring ready. It's difficult because when you pick it up to close things, then you move the chain. So you have to just really go slowly and pay attention. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my 6th one going in the same direction. And now my jump ring is on the front of that chain. And then I can connect this bar right there. So again, now you will pretty much have to move it because there's no way to close your jump ring without moving it. But when we lay it back down and check, hopefully everything is where it needs to be. It's a little bit difficult when only one side is connected, but you'll see. Use my pliers so I can get my fingers out of the way and also pull that chain so that I can make sure it's not twisted, and I'm checking my connection points. And yes, that looks great. So now we're going to move to the other side. Now on this bottom loop, I don't need a jump ring. You could put one if you wanted to, but I've decided not to put a jump ring. And what I want to do is get my chain going in the exact same direction as the other side. They're the same links, but so let me pick this up. I'm right hand dominant, so I actually have to pretty much have to twist it in order to open my loop. And I want to keep everything lined up on my mat. So just be patient with me. Once this first connection is done, then it will be easier to hold everything else together and see what we're doing. Okay. It's on, and let me just get a hold of it and close it. Trying really hard not to twist my chain too much on the other side, since I have that side just the way that I want it. Okay, that's nice and tight. So again, until you get most of this connected, you really have to keep replacing the chain into the orientation that you need it to be. So that side is still good. My jump rings are on the front. And now we're going to do the same thing with this side. Make sure that this side is oriented the same as the other side. There we go. So that means that these loops are laying parallel to my mat, and then this link is perpendicular to my mat, and that allows me, move my jump rings to this side, that allows me to count the spaces of the chain and know exactly where my next connection point is. So let me open this jump ring and get it ready, and then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so right there is where my connection point will be. And let me grab that loop. Again, trying not to disorient my other side, and leave it parallel to my mat. There. Let's pull it down again and see. Yes. So now we have one more to do. Let's get the jump ring ready. As I said, if you make a mistake or the chain has twisted and you made the wrong connection, the adjustment is very easy when the necklace is all finished. So it's really not stressful, but try not to redo it too many times. So let me see where I'm at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's where I need to be. Let me have my other plier to help me. Oh, I dropped it. Okay, let's straighten the chain out. Once the ladder is done, the rest is really fun and easy connecting. This part you just have to sort of pay a little bit of extra attention so that the necklace is going to hang right when it's finished. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, I'm not seeing my orientation as I want it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right here. Making sure it's on the front of that link. Connect that end of the bar, and once we get it closed, we'll be able to have a good look. That jump ring to cooperate there. Okay, let's have a look. Until it's connected, like when you drop it, like I just did. Let me see. I think it's going to hang just perfectly. Something's happened on this side. There it is. Yeah, so that way my bars and my links are hanging on the front of that chain. Okay, let me pull this up here so you can see. And then I'm going to use the silver jump rings again to attach the dangling part to the bottom of the necklace. You could use copper, but since I started with these up the chain, I think consistency will be nice. So I'm going to just grab this and attach it right to the bottom. Okay. Keep everything straight so you can see if your connections are good. I am so right hand dominant. I use both of my hands, but as you can see, I struggle a little bit on the left side of the necklace, which I wouldn't be if it weren't for the camera, but I'm trying to keep in the camera frame so that you can see what I'm doing. So just be patient with me. This side is not as seamless as the other side, but we'll get it. Okay, that looks really great. Oh, this is so beautiful and happy. I love the colors on this. So now I'm going to pull this down so that we can make the other connections. So I think I will continue. Let me see. I had these jump rings from the box that were larger. How do we feel about that? Do we want to stay with the smaller ones? There are always decisions to make when you're designing a piece of jewelry. The colors of things, the sizes, the spaces, lots of decisions as we go through our design. Let's see, how do I feel about that? I actually like the larger jump rings because I like the silver touching the copper here and then attaching to the chain. I could even do silver, copper, and then silver jump ring on the chain. I like that. I think that is very pretty. Let's do that. That is really pretty. And I have some extras here. So I'll start on the left side of the necklace and open this little 4mm silver jump ring. And again, I want to keep my chain from being twisted. Get my jump ring there. Close it really well. And then open this copper one that's probably to be a 6mm. So that's really pretty. I hope you can see what I've done. I've literally made almost like my own little segment of chain in the existing one, where I've alternated. I've made it so that the necklace is alternating silver and copper. So it just adds that little bit of silver alternating copper presence as we go up the necklace. Oh, I like that. Let's do the other side. I'm closing these silver ones because the copper ones, I don't know if you can see, but they are not perfect circles. So I have to sort of, can you see? I just have to sort of correct that. They're offset a little bit. I don't know where I got these jump rings. I think they were bargain bead box, but I have to sort of perfect the circle. So I had to open these and reclose them anyway. So I went ahead and closed the silver jump rings, knowing I had to open the copper ones. And so then when I'm using my two pliers, I can make sure that those two ends meet perfectly, create a perfect circle. I even go under this way and that way. They just were not great circles. So, oh, that is so pretty. I really like that. It just adds a little something to the chain. So on this one, we have two silver wire metals, so we will just do a copper in between each one. Yeah, this is a perfect example of sometimes when you're designing, things sort of unfold in front of you. You make those decisions in your design as you're creating, and it turns out better than you originally thought, or you discover something in the design that you hadn't thought of when you started the piece. So that's part of the fun and joy of making jewelry. Okay, let's do this side. This is the really fun part, when all of your components and all of your decisions and your color choices and the patterns that you have created come together like this, and you can really see where the piece is going to be when you're finished and how lovely it is. It's one of the joys of making jewelry. So yeah, I'm having to finagle a little bit these jump rings. I know I'm going to be out of your view for a moment, but I just want to have a quick peek at how my necklace is hanging, and it looks great. So now we just have to finish the back of the necklace. Now I already measured on myself from my big spool of chain, and this is about a 24-inch piece. But you could adjust this for your taste, or if you're making it for yourself. I like long necklaces, and so I'm doing this one a bit longer than normal. And so I did about 24 inches, and I'm going to separate this one length into two lengths so that I have a place for my lobster clasp. But as a long necklace like this, you actually don't even need a lobster clasp. It can be an over the head design, but I'm going to go ahead and divide this in half, and that will give me options for finishing it off. So let me get my cutter. So as we sew, I don't even have to cut this, honestly. If you don't want to lose a link and you want to take the time, this is an unsoldered link chain. So you can find the little space in each link and open it just like a jump ring. So if you can see what I did there. And then just close it back again, just like a jump ring. And that way you don't waste any links of your chain. I'm not so worried about that, but just so you know, when you buy chain, that is an option. Okay, so now we need to decide our connection point here, and I think I want to copy exactly what we did down here. So we're going to alternate our metals. So let me get a copper jump ring and add that here, and then a silver jump ring to make that connection point with the chain. And then we just repeated our pattern and continued the idea of mixing the metals evenly, alternating them all the way up the design of the necklace. Let's have a look. Oh, that is so pretty. I'm really loving it. We will do the same thing on this side. Get one of our little 4mm silver jump rings. Close that really well. Then connect our chain. Okay, I'm just going to pull this off my mat really quickly and hold it up against myself and just see how long it's going to be to see if I want to take any length off this chain before I put the lobster claw on. And it's very long. It's almost like Flapper Girl long, but you know what? I love it. I am going to leave it long. Now, for this design, many of you may want it shorter. You may want the ladder to lay just beneath your collarbone, but I love the length on this. So I'm going to leave it long, and I'm going to connect my lobster clasp and my open end. And let's see, I think I'm going to, I think I do want to put a jump ring. I was debating about just opening the link and adding the lobster claw, but I think it's a little bit small. It might be tight and not move nicely and flow nicely. So I'm going to add a jump ring and then add my lobster claw. Like I said, this is so long, this could very easily be just an over-the-head necklace, and then you wouldn't have to bother with the clasp at all, but I'm going to add the clasp just for it to look finished. And now on this side, I think I will just open the length and add the other half of the closure. Long necklaces tend to make people look taller and slimmer. They draw the eye vertically up and down, and it is just my favorite. When I'm making things, I lean towards that. But if you are doing these for craft shows or gifts, you can adjust this length really easily. So there we have our colorful, curated bead box ladder necklace. And I know it is really difficult to see it on my mat. So I will put this on a bust and let you take some pictures and show you our our finished necklace. Thank you so much for being with me today. I hope you had fun, and I hope you got some ideas for your curated bead box. Have a great day. Ciao.